Good evening. Thank you for coming back to our Tea Masters podcast. My name is Christopher, the Brewmaster. Here with me is Jay, our other Brewmaster. Say hi, Jay.
Hi, Jay.
And today we have a lovely green tea made in a small island country known as Montepuzu. It's a wonderful blend, kind of reminiscent of the sea, mostly due to the fact that they have to constantly battle sentient octopi that invade their lands. But the blood and corpses of the octopi give their tea leaves a unique refreshness, all of its own. Go ahead and sip now, please. Ah, lovely. What do you think?
It's not too bad. Uh, remi- Reminds me of my time on the beach recently, just laying back, soaking up the sun, which I don't get very often, as you know, being a redhead. But yes, quite delicious, quite good, savory.
I'm told it goes well with sushi for obvious reasons. But if you are having sushi and you're using the octopi, I believe their city is called uh, Succotash Six. I'm not sure why. Maybe it's a bad translation. Make sure to cut off the suckers. Otherwise, it can choke you as you eat them. Mmm, delicious. And what tea do you have prepared for us today, Jay?
I got nothing. I got nothing. I'm done.
Mm. Well, see you next time we come back with an English black tea brought to you by Celestial Seasonings.
Delicious.
Da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
Well, this was. We've had some really bad intros, but this one takes the cake.
You
I
don't
don't
have a
even.
monotone tea man voice?
Well, I kind of grew up watching the BBC a lot, so I have, lots of Bob Ross, things like that. You kind of get used to it.
He does it the best.
Yeah, no one is better than Mr. Rogers or Bob Ross at that. Just even monotone.
It's hard to do. I guess maybe once you practice it a while, you'll be pretty good at it. But
Yeah,
yeah.
I can't do it for very long at all. I'm not a monotone individual whatsoever.
I just for me it just goes back to the whole idea that I can't do weird voices. You get the high pitched girl, you get the gruff guy, and that's it. That's all my voices that you get.
I
Oh
am
hi, how you doing? Hi, how you doing? And that's it.
I'm
That's
I'm
all you
I'm
get.
trying. I'm trying to get better at that. I actually did a few different voices this weekend.
Oh really?
Yes.
Do
Yeah.
tell.
Well, it was nothing major, but there's three. So one of my players is a rogue. I can't remember the archetype, but basically he gets to talk to spirits or spirits talk to him, and they can uh like once a day or something or other he can use an ability where a spirit gives him uh, a bonus advantage or something like that on a skill of his choice. So any skill, he can just pick what it is. So we decided how to sort of role play that is he has three spirits that just follow him around,
Hmm.
and the three spirits, not surprisingly, as this is my campaign, are all known as Steve, Dave, and Bob. One, but I gave them three very different accents or three very different just sort of role play things. One of them sounds like Boomhauer
All
because
right.
that was the first thing that came to mind. They're just sort of rip-offs from Hank Hill and those guys, but it's kind of fun. It just sort of he asked me about it in game, so that's just what came out of my mouth, and that's permanent. It's in game now. It's permanent.
Yeah. I've been running the Baldur's Gate Adventures League games,
Mhm.
and I have been so bad at this because I have not been doing any prep and just showing up and like speed reading this thing in 10 seconds and then trying to run it while making the mistakes that I'm making seem like the players are making because I don't
Uh-huh.
want to own up to my mistakes.
Right. DMs, all DMs, what he's talking about, don't do that.
No, that was the entire time. You just misheard. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Don't do what he did.
Uh, there was I don't know if okay, so like we're halfway through packet 2. All right. In packet 1, you were introduced to 2 NPCs, Dara and like Geoff. Okay, and Geoff had a goat. Geoff was an
Hold on, hold
older,
on, hold on, hold on. Is it Geoff?
yeah,
That's Jeff.
Geoff, um, and his pet goat. So Geoff is a shepherd, an elderly shepherd. Okay, and Dara is a young female human. Didn't say her age, just young female human.
Okay.
Okay,
That could be
and
14 or that could be 24. Yeah.
just wait. Okay. And so in this thing, Dara is sending you out to go rescue people. And she's also gathering people outside of Eltriel ever since it got pulled into hell and creating a caravan to basically go to Baldur's Gate. So just by the actions of this girl, okay, I'm assuming that she's young, but not a child or a teenager. You know, someone who actually is probably like 18 at least, you
Okay.
know. If 18 was old enough to sign the Constitution, 18 is old enough to set up a caravan to go to Baldur's Gate.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
right,
Joan of Arc was leading armies at like 15 or something.
right. So have at you. Okay, they just said young female. So in the second session, going through the second packet, they finally say her age, and she's 10.
Okay.
Like, because they changed the leader of the caravan from Dara to this elderly, well, not elderly, but older female who's also the innkeeper, because she became the de facto leader. It's like, so what happened to Dara? Well, she's like the co-leader now, and it makes sense because she's 10.
It doesn't even make sense then because she's 10.
She's 10. So I was just like, we all kind of like, damn, she's kicking ass.
Yeah, I mean, look, at age 10, I wasn't leading anything. I don't know
uh,
anybody at the age of 10 who is leading anything. Most of us were just trying to get through fourth grade.
and so Geoff and his goat are just like irrelevant to the story. So
Yeah. So they just brought in an NPC with a goat that you say hi to and then never have another thing.
yeah, well, they did have to happen to mention in the first session that if you speak with animals and talk to the goat, he complains that the grass outside of El Trial is kind of bland.
Oh, okay. Well,
Oh
see,
yeah,
that's the whole point for having Jeff in there. It's not Jeff. It's for the goat.
it's for the
Uh,
goat.
now, of course, you have to think of a good name for the goat.
It's
Uh,
like
yeah,
Gantry or something. I can't remember off the top of my head.
oh, okay. At least they named him, and because I think if somebody asked me what is the goat's name, immediately I'm just going to say Billy. Yeah, that's off the top of my head. That's what you're going to get.
Well, in the third session, like I said, we just were able to start the second packet, and we were kind of working through there. And part of what you have to do is you have to get in and convince the Flaming Fist to let your caravan of refugees amidst the sea of refugees to get entrance into Baldur's Gate through the Basilisk Gate.
Uh huh.
Um, and one of the things that they require is they require that you get first and last names of all the individuals, what their occupation is, and if they have a criminal history, have a cleric certify that they're all disease free from within the city,
Yep.
and then also find employment for them and lodgings. And it's supposed to be how it's written. It's supposed to be an impossible task.
Yeah.
Okay, but with how creative 9 players at my table can be, it's kind of hard to come up with an excuse that you know they can't figure out how to get these people in. So they came back and said, okay, well, how many people do we have in this caravan? And what it says, it's 27 plus the adventurers. And so there was a bunch of named NPCs, which I had them all accounted for as minis, and then there were like 16 others. And they go, okay, so what are the others' names? Because they wanted to write down the actual names.
Oh
I was like,
no.
fuck. So I was like, okay, let me get Xanathar's guide. I was like, hey, can you run over there and get me Xanathar's guide? And the player's like, I got it. And he pulled out his copy of Xanathar's guide. And I sat there and I read off 16 names, just pulling 2 random things from Xanathar's guide. I will say again, Xanathar's Guide to Everything is one of the best books that you can have
Oh
at
yeah,
the table when stuff just goes crazy because it has
yeah.
like tiny rules for like these little things that happen. Not to mention the random name generator has at the end of it. So I kind of went through and chose one name of like every culture possible.
Um,
But I don't
I
think there are last names; they're just like first names.
I actually found a website that makes me kind of want to use like the internet when running a game.
Fancy
Uh,
name generator?
no, it's 5thdnd.com.
Yeah.
Basically 5thdnd.com. But it has all sorts of just random generators, people and places. So it's got NPCs, quick name generator, city generator, village generator, dungeon delving. It has traps, treasure generators, and it's just real quick. You just click it and bam, it's got what you want. It even has narratives, like you can just click on narrative obstacles, and it will say something like they might rethink their plans when they learn about a magical barrier in the way. So if I'm running something and I just need something quick, all right, there's a magical barrier. Then I just have to sort of come up with how to get a for them to get around that.
Holy crap! This site is amazing. It's
Yes,
simple.
it's
It's got like
stupidly
no
easy.
crazy shit on it. He even has his own book.
Yeah,
Oh, it's a Kickstarter.
yeah.
Ooh.
It's a Spelljammer Kickstarter.
I may kickstart this just because that website's awesome.
Yeah, I just found this thing yesterday when I was putting together my game, and I
Wow.
was yeah, I was super
Jerry
impressed.
Joe Setzler.
So
Setzer?
yeah, everybody out there, check it out. 5thdnd.com. So basically, fifthdnd.com.
Oh, okay. So this is the guy that runs the website. Jerry Joe Seltzer is an illustrator, writer, and teacher. He was a regular contributor to TSR's Dungeon Magazine back in the before time.
Oh wow.
Successful D&D projects include the Unfamiliar release of Tiny Beasts, the Call to Adventure book of 5th edition backgrounds, and the Traveling Encounters book of encounters. He's also created the Elemental Fantasy RPG as well as the super fun Micro RPG. These days,
Yep.
he's focused on creating books to enhance D&D and DMing awesome campaigns. Oh, and raising kids. Yeah,
Yep.
wow, got to get
But
him on
yeah,
the podcast.
yeah, might have to reach
Yeah.
out to that guy. But yeah, it's called his Kickstarter Shipwrecks of the Astral Sea. It is a Spelljammer based thing. 100 plus pages, 7 shipwreck dungeons, digital maps, fully illustrated, etc.
Now, we're going to be talking about Spelljammer ships later in this podcast.
Oh, okay. I
So
didn't know there
oddly
was
enough, that
any.
this
I didn't know there was anything out on them.
there isn't, but we're just going to talk about the concept of them.
Okay.
Um, the fact that he has just from this Kickstarter these detailed maps of random Spelljammer ships with monster stat blocks built in,
Hmm.
and they're all like just like abandoned ships floating out in space. These are perfect things that you can use if you're running a Spelljammer adventure, going from point A to point B. Oh, you come across this. What did you call it? The Gilded Molly. It's a goldfish Spelljammer ship
Yep.
stuck in like a
Stuck in a
gelatinous cube.
Oh my god, that is amazing.
Oh, this is a great book.
Yeah, that honestly, that picture just makes me think, oh, yeah, Futurama running, like their ship just flying past this thing.
Uh, I don't
Yeah.
need two copies of Shipwrecks. I just want one.
Here we are on the podcast, and you're going ahead and just
No,
kickstartering this.
I'm backing this Kickstarter.
Yeah, no, I knew you are. I know you are.
Ooh, for $500, can he illustrate one of my characters in a book?
That's, I mean, I get it, but I am, of course, not doing $500.
No,
Wow.
it's $60 for a signed copy, and it's like $30 for
I mean,
just
yeah,
the book.
$30 is actually really cheap. But yeah, it's 100 plus pages, so it's not like a massive book or anything. But with the average cost of a D&D book being $50, and honestly, within the next year, it's probably going to be 60. So that's pretty good. I know we've talked about I've talked about Jeff Ashworth's stuff fairly recently on the podcast, but I just picked up another book of his a couple days ago, and I got to
Yeah.
use it this past weekend. It's called Traps, Puzzles, and Dungeons.
So
And
between this website and that book, you're just set.
oh, I'm very set for a while on that kind of stuff: traps, puzzles, dungeons, etc. But we were talking about this, Kickstarter only being $30. That book I bought was $23 plus tax,
Yeah.
and it is 250 pages, 255 pages or so.
Yeah.
So it's half the price of a standard D&D book, and this is the actual book that everybody wants.
Yeah.
It's filled with useful stuff. It's not just, oh, more classes, or oh, more dungeons. And also, all of Jeff Ashworth's books have 3 one-shot adventures in the front of them, which takes up like
That's
the
cool.
first, yeah, it takes up like the first 60 pages or so. Uh, I did want to talk about a couple of the traps that I used this weekend, because there
From
we
that book or from the website?
no, from this book. I did pull
Okay.
a couple ideas from the website, but I haven't gotten to run them yet. But
Okay.
so the first one was called the Molotov Goblin, and it's basically the players walk into a long hallway, and at the end of the hallway is a false wall. So when they get far enough into the room, the goblins on the other side of it knock down the false wall, and they have another goblin sitting on top of a catapult, a large catapult, and he's completely covered in grease with a bunch of vials strapped around him. So you fire on their turn. Basically, they fire him off, and it's DM's discretion how far he actually goes. I rolled to see distance wise where he would land, and when he lands, it's effectively a fireball. I think the stat they gave in the book was something like 12d6 fireball damage, but as it's D&D, you can adjust
Fireball
it according.
damage.
Yeah, yeah. And well, the worst part is he's covered in grease. So when the fireball goes off, everybody within that fireball radius is then covered in greased fire.
Hmm.
And so they can use an action on their turn to remove it from them, basically. As well, the entire room is also on fire. So it was a matter of I fired him off last night. Only one player got caught in it, and he was a rogue. So he completely avoided the fireball damage. But he's still
As they
covered.
do.
Yeah, as they do. But he's still covered in grease, and he's still standing in the fire. So every round he's going to take a little damage, and if he ends his turn in the fire, he's going to take some damage. But unfortunately, it didn't work quite as well as I had hoped because I just rolled shitty. But if I'd
Yeah.
rolled correct, yeah, if I'd rolled high, everybody in that group would have taken a fireball and been covered in it. So I was I like that trap, and I'm trying to remember the other one that I used.
I don't think you'll ever see that in like official
Oh God, no.
uh works, just because I think suicidal attack goblins just aren't PC enough anymore.
Yeah,
But you can for your game. You're fine.
yeah. Look, it's a homebrew, man. I do what I want. But yeah, it's pretty cool. They have a whole bunch of different types of traps. They've got complex traps, disruptive traps. Disruptive traps basically like the was it Tomb of Horrors or Annihilation, where it just teleports you back to the beginning of the dungeon with no
Oh,
gear.
I know all too well about that.
Yeah, it's stuff like that. They've got deadly traps, which are designed to actually kill characters. They also have painful traps, which are just supposed to do a lot of damage. That's
Hmm.
what the goblin trap. Oh yeah, yeah. This was the other one. The other one was called the reverse knock, and it's a door at the end of a hallway or in a room, and it's actually on a pivot that runs through the middle of the door
Mhm.
horizontally. So when a player knocks on it, it triggers it, and it swings down and slams into their head. Basically, and it will put a hole through the door, which will then trap them in the door, and they have to make like a athletics check to get unstuck.
Okay.
So I ended up hitting our buddy Muffin with it last night, but he rolled high enough on his save that he didn't actually go through the door. So instead, he just took damage. But then you can also get much more creative with that because there can be enemies just hanging out on the other side of the door that then just start attacking you while you're stuck in the door.
That reminds me of one of my favorite mimics is the door mimic.
Oh yeah,
Pretty
yeah, yeah.
much, pretty much. I was playing Thaladred, and we were doing a Death House, the Strahd one shot that's pretty popular.
Mhm.
And there's a mimic, a door mimic in there. So Thaladred is very specific. Like if you want him to engage the room, he's going to engage the room in the most brutal way possible. So he just kicks in the door and takes a move action in, stands there and just starts hitting the first thing that moves.
Yep.
Very very simple character to play, and that's the whole point. So here they're like, yeah, you go first because you're the big fighter with a shield. Blah blah blah. Have fun. So I'm kicking in every single door that I can possibly come across. And the DM's like, well, this is a steel reinforced door. I got advantage on my athletics check. I have +5 to strength. And it's just not going to happen, buddy. I am proficient and have expertise in athletics checks. So I'm kicking in all the doors,
Hmm.
including the walls. I'm kicking in the walls too. So I'm doing that and going crazy. And then at the very end, I don't know like if this is part of the module or he was just tired of it. He just had that one be a mimic. So the mimic bit my leg and restrained me, and then started hitting me with the tentacles.
Yep. Yeah. As soon as you kick to it, you're just stuck to it, man.
I'm like, oh.
It's funny you would mention that one because I came across that one yesterday and thought about using it.
The Death Strahd or the mimic? The Death
The
House or the mimic?
No, the mimic. I came across that
Yeah.
trap specifically and considered using it, but decided not to.
It's a good one if you have a character just kicks indoors all the time and does nothing else but that.
Yep, of which we had that. With the change in my campaign, the group of characters, they're not kicking in all the doors anymore. But for a long time, my first campaign with them, yeah, they used to kick in every door. One character used to do that.
I mean, that's what I would do. That's what I do. I mean, my character's also very good at like anyone can go first. I'm more than happy for you to unlock the door and be stealthy. I'm going to be back 60 feet because I am not stealthy.
Yep.
I understand people like to be stealthy. You can be stealthy. I'm just going to be back here. If you want the punch, you just want me to punch things. I'll go first. Trust me. It'll
Yeah.
be great.
It was kind of funny how Muffin got hit by that trap in the first place. So they entered into the dungeon, and the rogue goes out 20 feet ahead or so, and is going very slowly, looking for traps down the hallway. And he gets to the end of the hallway, and he completely forgot to tell me he was checking for traps on the door. And I made it very obvious. I made it very specific and obvious that he was checking for traps in the hallway. So then he gets to the door, completely forgets to check for traps. Muffin goes to open it up, and wham! Takes some damage.
It's the way it goes.
Yep. But yeah, it's a fantastic book if you guys can find a copy. I got the last one our store had. This thing is selling out quick.
I wonder if this guy lets you use things from publications. Probably not, but there's a lot of really good stuff on that 5thdnd.com site.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
What I like about it too is he gives like little descriptions that it's not just stats; it's like little descriptions for everything. And because he's an illustrator, there's a lot of illustrations that he's added to a lot of things too.
Yep.
That's really cool. So, Spelljammer ships.
All right. Yeah,
So,
let's talk about those.
Dungeons and Dragons is to start released a whole bunch of videos about what Spelljammer is, what Spelljammer ships are. You can go to their YouTube channel and you can see it. And it's Chris Perkins and the older community manager from D&D Beyond, and they're just kind of talking about Spelljammer. There's a big long video, and then they have like little short snippets of it.
Hmm.
There's one in particular where they talk about Spelljammer ships and how they kind of like brought back the classics and added a couple extra ones. Like there's a Firefly ship that they added that
Wait,
Chris
wait, wait,
Perkins
wait,
said.
wait. Firefly, does it look like a firefly or does it look like the firefly from the show?
Um, it looks like a firefly, um, but it looks more like a multi-winged insect. And Chris Perkins called it the Jeep of Spelljammer ships.
Oh, okay. So it's just durable and
It's durable and small. He said it's a good ship for a small party of adventurers because otherwise you need to supply a crew to run everything.
okay.
And I got the tongue in cheek joke for like, oh, it's just a firefly, haha. But it doesn't look like a firefly like the show Firefly ship
Yeah,
was.
like the Serenity.
Yeah, it doesn't have a glowing butt. This is more just like it glows and looks like an insect and it's got wings. It looks more like Lex than it does
Okay.
the Firefly.
Yeah, which kind
But
of
he kind of
makes sense because a lot of the Spelljammer ships look like insects anyway.
yeah. And I haven't been doing a lot of reading on Spelljammer stuff yet. It's on my docket to do before it comes out. I always thought that those were like creatures that they had like killed or harvested and made into ships, but it sounds like more often than not, people just take the ships and make them to resemble those creatures. Like the hammerhead shark, it looks like a shark, but it's not like they found a giant hammerhead shark floating in space and made it
Yeah,
a vehicle.
the actual ship, the Spelljammer, is a living creature, but the vast majority of Spelljammers are not. They're just ships that were built.
He talked about one that was a galleon ship that's made out of a living treant, and the bonus to that ship is because you have to refresh your oxygen bubble
Hmm.
on the ship because the living treant is the ship and is still growing. Like he's the mast essentially.
Uh-huh.
He just supplies oxygen for everybody, so you don't have to worry about that.
Okay, so that ship never even has to go back into port. I mean, it doesn't, other than needing food and water and so forth. But for
Yeah, yeah,
because we talked about it last time we discussed Spelljammer stuff. I think it's once a month, give or take, where you have to actually go into the atmosphere of a planet to recoup the oxygen.
yeah. So it was very interesting, and I like the idea too of having a base that you can just kind of take around and do things with. Um, and maybe you got me thinking about when I ran Waterdeep and I had the one like base for the players. How often do you have bases for players, like groups?
It can depend. It will depend on the campaign I'm running.
Hmm.
So the previous campaign that I ran, they had they had a couple of different bases. That campaign was effectively run in two sections. The first section they were underground in Hobtown, and they ended up getting access to a house that they used for a base. And it really wasn't utilized very often. The players had access to it; they could sleep there, store gear there, but that was the extent of it. The second leg of the campaign, they ended up becoming nobles of an area, and they had to build their own keep, they had to build their own town, and that effectively was their base of operations. They were there pretty regularly. I didn't really run a lot of stuff in the base, but I could have. Now, the current campaign that I'm running, one of them is a noble of a small town. And I'm not, truthfully, I am not fully utilizing the bases as well as I could be or should because
Hmm.
I'm telling kind of the story. So we're just, here's your base, here's what you got. And then they're just sort of bouncing all over the place, running around doing stuff. But there are campaigns where I've seen them where a lot of it really and truly just revolves around that base. If they have a castle or something, you can run entire campaigns where they barely ever leave the castle. It just depends on how the DM wants to do it or what you're trying to do.
Yeah,
Or honestly what the players want to do.
yeah. I mean, I haven't done bases much. I think Waterdeep was for like the first real time that I actually like dived into it deeply and said, "This is your base. These are all the fun things you could do." I got a packet from DM's Guild with a bunch of extra options, like safes and secret
Yeah.
laboratories and stuff like that. When we ran the Star Wars campaign, uh, that
Yeah.
DM having all those extra ship things that we could do, and it was all great. I just it's an extra level of management that I kind of say this a bunch of times. I don't know if it's consistent enough and players are involved with it very heavily, it works great. But the second they stop doing it and you stop forcing them to do it, they just don't care about it anymore, and it just kind of falls to the wayside. So
There,
it feels like wasted effort sometimes, but
there's two methods of sort of doing this, and there's the DM utilizing it, and that sort of forces it on the players. And a lot of times it just ends up where mine were at. It's a base, you've got access to it. I'm not really, nobody ever really uses it. Then there's the other one, and I saw this more in earlier editions because they were designed for you to have bases. When you hit
mhm.
ninth level, if you were a fighter, you were expected to have a keep. You got followers. Uh, so there are some players who really, really and truly thrive on it. I love having bases as a player. My one character, I ended up having a brothel as my base.
Of
There was
course you
another.
did.
Oh yeah, well, that's the
Nerd.
character. There
Nerd.
was, yep, there was another character that I had years ago in with third edition where I actually, because we were very high level in that game, I ended up spending a ton of money and actively writing up all of the details and buying all of the parts and building a base in game. And it never got utilized in the game, but I loved it as a player because I had access to millions of gold at that point. Where we were over 20th level,
Yeah,
and third edition actually had a strongholds book with prices and work time and everything else on how long it takes to build a base.
that's
Uh,
cool.
yeah, as well as all the magical components you need to properly defend the base.
Defend the base.
Yeah. I mean, look, if I can spend an extra 20 grand to make it a place where only I can teleport in and out of, I will.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of like the if I ever ran like a homebrew world, like that would be a major component of the game at a higher level is like establishing yourself in a town in an area, and at lower levels it would be less of having a base and more of like grid exploration and
Mhm.
going from grid to grid, spending a week in each grid exploring that area and seeing what you can't find, and like randomly rolling up what happens.
Yeah,
That's my big idea.
bases they work if at low levels you only really end up with a base if some noble grants it to you. If it's a storyline thing and oh, you did this favor for this lord or this king and they give you this location. You're now a noble, etc. The other one, it's mostly going to be done at higher levels. Once you're like 10th level or higher and you have a lot of money, then you can start buying places.
You're an Avenger now, kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know that on Critical Role, at least the first season of it, Matt Mercer, like that whole group had their own base, and
Yeah.
it was utilized multiple times throughout the story. They ended up having a tree that they would one of the druids, the druid Keyleth, she would do a teleportation like tree walk from that location to other spots they were going to.
See, that
Yep.
works out.
Yeah. So I think bases are they're not necessary, but I do think they're a good storytelling thing for the game.
Yeah. I definitely like if I play Spelljammer, and that's the plan. They have a module currently up on DM's Guild that's like a Spelljammer Academy, and you got
Yep.
to go through and survive that. And that takes you up to like I think level 3 or 5, which then it directly translates to the book, which starts their adventure at I believe level 5.
Mhm.
So it's very interesting how they're kind of handling that now that now that Wizards owns D&D Beyond and they're publishing so much free stuff on D&D Beyond, like the monster manuals and stuff like that and all other stuff that's free. I can kind of see like the books taking a sidestep back a little bit, like
Yeah.
we complained that Spelljammer didn't have a full adventure with it, but if you add in the fact that this Spelljammer content for 1 through 3 is free, and then the Adventure is 5 to whatever. And if they release anything else out there and put it on DM's Guild, that just makes it more content accessible to more people.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, we've
which
talked about
may
it.
be what they're going for. I'm not sure, but
Uh,
that's what it feels like.
I'm sure it is. We've talked about it many times on this podcast that with fifth edition, they're just trying to do as much of it digital as they can. The
Yeah,
f- I'm an old guy, man. I want physical copies. I don't want the digital. For the younger crowd, that might be exactly what they want. I yeah, I truthfully I don't know. But if I go out and spend $50 on a book, I want a lot of stuff in that book.
damn youngins.
Yep. Yeah, look, there are people who just play it online. I can't imagine ever doing that, but whatever floats your boat, man. But yeah, with Spelljammer, bases I think are going to kind of be key because everybody is going to want their own Spelljammer ship, and that ship is a home away from home. It is your base.
Yeah. So I thought that was interesting, and like I had the one time where I had the base, and that was about it. And kind of looking forward to Spelljammer and having another base flying around. Maybe I can make up my own ship. It'll be more fun and entertaining.
Oh yeah.
They did talk about that there's a beholder ship
Oh, of course there is.
called like the Hive Tyrant or something like that, and they
Yeah.
didn't mention um, what it was, but I can just assume that it's probably a giant, massive beholder that has like beholders in its back, like those frogs, and they just come flying out. And
Well, no, you can see a picture of it. This isn't a fifth edition picture of it, but if you go to the Spelljammer wiki, spelljammerfandom.com wiki, they have the Tyrant ship and the Tyrant Scout ship. And basically, it looks like a floating eyeball, like a sort of gelatinous looking with an eyeball coming out the back of it for the Tyrant ship. And the Tyrant Scout ship actually just looks like an eyeball that's been pulled out of the eye socket.
it's definitely not what I was thinking.
I mean, these are not the fifth edition art, so it might be completely different with 5e.
I'm gonna go back to basically it's a giant beholder that has like the little like caves all rolling its back like the frog that has little frogs inside of it,
Yeah.
and that's all it is. Frogs all the way in.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, just Google Spelljammer Tyrant ship. There's one of them that actually just looks like a beholder.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm super excited for Spelljammer. I'm just been waiting for it, and it's just kind of going crazy for it. So much so, in fact, that I convinced my DM to let me play a GIF for our Fandelver Essentials
Yeah.
campaign that he's running.
Well,
And
did they officially release the stats for them?
no, I just took the UA and ran with that.
Okay.
The weak ass
Yeah,
UA.
the very weak weak GIF.
I mean, really, all they have to do with the GIF is keep the plus 1d4 or sorry, they have reroll. If they roll a 1 on a melee attack for damage, they can reroll that die and use the result. That's good. That's cool.
Yeah, but how often can they do that?
I think as many times as their proficiency.
Okay.
And then they're large creatures. So they have the whole thing that Goliath has where they count as being large. They have double push pull and carry capacity. So
Uh,
I can lift and carry the most out of the entire party, and I have like the second lowest strength. Uh,
you can also grapple giants.
yes.
we,
So
we we found that out the other last night. Muffin was trying to shove a hill giant down a cliff. He was medium sized. It is huge. He could not.
nice. So I was playing the GIF and having a lot of fun with it, and the whole concept behind my character is that I am there. The Spelljammer ship flies in, drops me off in this podunk town in the middle of Faerun for no apparent reason whatsoever. They lower me down on like a little dinghy. I get off the ship, and then the Spelljammer flies away. I just had to be a galleon, something not too crazy. And so now, as a giant hippo man just walking around town, I cast locate object because the whole reason I'm there is I'm there to basically find Gemma Blackboots, who's the character my wife is playing from the Lost Mines campaign, and I am there to service her rifle that she inherited from her grandma, Betty Blackboots. Now, Gemma, the character, doesn't know how Betty got this rifle. She just assumes it's a gun, but guns are still kind of rare in Faerun. Again, not everybody has them.
Right. Mostly
So,
just followers of Gond that end up with them.
right, and Drow.
Drow don't do guns.
Yeah, they do.
No, that's never been a thing.
There's a whole stat blocker just Drow gunslingers in 5e,
Well, 5e's dumb. Drow have
and
never been.
Waterdeep is full of Drow gunslingers,
Oh my
and they use
god.
poison bullets.
What have they done to Faerun? Oh my god, what is wrong with this game?
They went hand crossbows, f that shit,
Yeah.
pistol.
Well, I've been reading a whole bunch of dark elf novels recently, and guess what? There's no guns in them anywhere at all.
So, anyways, Gemma, the character, doesn't know how Betty got the gun, but she know that she was a great adventurer when in her youth, and when she retired, she hung up the gun, and when Betty was like on her deathbed, she gave the map and to a couple places and the gun to Gemma so she could go out and have adventures on her own. So in walks this hippo going, ma'am, I need to service your pistol or your rifle. It's part of the package that was provided on the gun when your grandmother Betty was given it for extraordinary conduct on a Spelljammer ship. And so my wife's character's like, the fuck you say?
Those words that came out of your mouth, I don't understand them.
I was like, yeah, she slayed an astral dreadnought with nothing but a pickaxe. And so I have to stay within 100 feet of her, and my whole character's purpose is just to service the gun, and then I leave. Okay, so
Yep.
as long as my wife doesn't let me service a gun, the gift stays.
So you
And
get to play the character until your wife is tired of you playing the character.
yeah. So I had like this other site open while we were playing of just like British slang terms, and like I'm working it into my conversation. I'm trying to talk in a British accent. I'm like, oh, bully, yes,
Yes. Very, very good. Yes. Yeah. No.
yes.
That's a character. If I was going to play it, I would do my damnedest to learn a British accent and learn how to do the colonizer voice.
Yeah. So I had a lot of fun with it, and like I had like +10 to hit, and because I have a magic musket, and my wife is just terrible with her rolls, and she uses the I can't remember what the name is. I think it's sharpshooter, where you can take a -10 to your attack, and you get to add 10 damage.
Yeah. Yeah.
So she
I
tries
think
to
it's
use,
sharpshooter.
huh?
I think it's sharpshooter.
Yeah. So she tries to like cast fairy fire on things, and then um, use the -10 and have the
Okay.
advantage
At
counteract
advantage.
that. Yeah.
That's
And
smart
that's
thinking.
basically what I told her to do, if she ever does that, otherwise just shoot normally. And that's what she does. But she has like this notorious streak where she just can't hit shit.
Mhm.
And the entire time, my gift is like, oh, her sights are off by 5 degrees. Oh, she's choking. She's choking too low on the gun. No, ma'am, you need to stretch your arm out further. No, no, put the gun in your shoulder blade. Don't just free fire. Oh,
Oh, you're holding
it
it too tightly.
just oh the firing the trigger mechanism is just too loose. It needs to be tightened. Like, just all these comments on her shots, and I'm just pissing my wife off the entire time we're playing. And I think she's just gonna let me service the gun when she gets back to town, so I can make a new character.
You want to know what the
And
best part of that would be is if you service the gun and then she starts just rolling crit after crit.
well, I mean, I would assume any Mike the DM was gonna do something to the gun once I service it, because she just never serviced the gun.
Mhm.
She doesn't even use bullets. She's an artificer, so she just fires magic bullets. And I even have the gift comments like, oh, there's arcane buildup in the gun. It's just blowing out crazy. You're firing it too. You're putting too much magic through the muzzle. It can't. It's not accurate then.
It's a
You know.
gun. It's not a wand of wonder.
Right. So, uh, and the best part is too is like I'm hitting every single one of my shots because I have +10 to hit at level 5. So like I'm rolling 5 and still hitting with a 15.
Yeah.
And just I'm rolling like max damage almost every single time, and then I'm a ranger on top of that, so there's extra damage stacked on top of that. And so like she'll cast fairy fire and hit like one creature out of 3 because fairy fire sucks.
Yeah.
Um, and then like I'll kill that one creature because I have advantage, and and just stealing her kills from her.
Oh my goodness.
She's gonna listen to this and stab me in my sleep. So
Yeah, probably. But I'm sure that's not going to be the first time that's happened. Yeah, I personally, I just think it would be hilarious if you finally get to service the gun, retire the character, and then immediately she just starts rolling like 18, 19,
oh
17,
yeah,
20,
it would be
20.
it'd be amazing if she never rolls below a 15 ever again.
Yeah, just yeah, or at least shortly after servicing the gun, just go on a hot streak for like a game session or two.
Yeah. I already know my backup character too. I'm going to play one of my favorite monsters from 4th edition, the Goblin Shaman.
Oh
So
man,
I'm going to play a wizard evoker goblin. And just I'm going to have it be part of the story that I'm tired of this dragon flying around and killed my tribe. I want revenge on the thing. I will party with you to kill this dragon while we're out there. And I'm just going to stack up evoker as much as possible and just throw fireballs for days.
yeah,
Nothing but high damage spells.
I have played that within the last couple of years. I played Garvin, the wizard. He was a dragonborn wizard who I patterned him off of Uncle Iroh.
Yeah.
And it was nothing but it was just fire spells, lots of fireballs.
Well,
And
I'm gonna take a couple goblin specific spells like fog cloud and a couple other shaman things that they had in 4th edition. They kind of like round out the package. And um, there I was looking at the feats. There's the gift of the metallic dragon that I'm gonna see if he'll let me take that feat and just change it thematically because the goblin's not gonna follow metallic dragon, but it gives me cure wounds and the ability to use my to basically create magical wings that I can block, um, add to people's AC or add to my AC as a reaction, and also add to saves if I need to. Because goblins always had a way to heal, and that was like the most thematic way, and I could have it just be bat wings or something. Um, I just got to figure out what to do with the spell book because goblins don't have spell books. They're more sorcerers in a way than they
yeah,
are wizards. So
play a
maybe
play
I
a
just don't want to
sorcerer
play
then.
I just don't want to play a sorcerer. I played one in 5th edition recently, so I don't want to play another one again.
That's fair.
But that's what I would possibly choose is just go with
Yeah,
maybe I'll
see,
just do a
I
sorcerer
it
again.
I've never liked the fact that D&D doesn't have like a shaman class. I know there were archetypes in like second and third or prestige classes, whatever, where there were shaman, but they yeah, there's just nothing like that in fifth edition. Uh,
Honestly, it's Circle of the Land Druid. I was looking
yeah,
at that.
that's
Yeah, I
probably
was
what
looking
it
at
was.
like being a furbog and having the same story. I'm here to stop the dragon. Well, I was like, I don't want to be a big idiot. I'm gonna be a goblin and be a little idiot.
So I've been playing the Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous video game,
Hmm.
and my God, man, I don't know how many classes they have. It's got to be close to 20 actual classes, and every one of those classes has like 4 or 5 prestige classes or archetypes that you have access to. It's just an overwhelming number. And then there's a bunch of prestige classes you can take when you meet certain requirements, which that was a third edition thing that's just carried over. But
Hmm.
I'm fifth edition. I'm not going to sit here and bitch about it not having enough content because we've done that enough. But man, they need to step up their game. There's so much stuff in just the video game of Pathfinder alone that it's just overwhelming.
Yeah.
And they could do much more of that. Add some more classes, man. That's my
Well,
2 cents.
I just don't think they're ever going to do that, just
No, they won't.
because. I mean, a lot of it depends on what this next edition is. If it's 5.5 or if it's 6. If
Yeah.
it's 6, then they can kind of go back to the classes and like kind of revamp them all and kind of get them more aligned to what their idea of them are. Like some don't really need to change much, like the fighter and the rogue and a couple of the core classes.
No, they don't. Most
But they need to fix the subclasses and get them more aligned to the power level of like Battle Master. But I fear they're going to do the same thing that all the other shitty game designers out there do. They're just going to nerf the fun stuff. They're going to wreck Battle Master to make Champion more
Oh, that
awesome.
that seems likely.
But
They
just make Champion better. Make Champion better than Battle Master.
it
You know,
doesn't even have.
make the choice. I mean, I can sit there and say the Battle Master for the fighter and the Rune Knight for the fighter are the two best fighter subclasses. And I don't always want to play the best. I want to play what's thematically there. So if I want to play a champion to basically be a samurai, essentially, or I want to play an arcane knight, or I want to play an
They
archer.
have a samurai. There's a samurai class or
Yeah,
archetype if I remember right,
yeah.
but it's not very good. It's
So
just not
make
good.
that better. But I just know they're just going to make the other ones worse, and then you're going to get stuck in this loop of, well, I only play 5 original, not 5e or 5e updated or whatever they call it.
You're going to end up with that anyway. If they did a 5.5, you're always going to have people who are like, I don't play the 5.5, which honestly, that's probably going to be me because I don't like the direction they've been heading in. So, but yeah, like I know with third edition when they went from 3.0 to 3.5, I don't actually know anyone who stayed with 3.0 because 3.5 was good changes.
That's
Yeah.
that's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping that I can look at the 5 and go, you guys had a good 10-year run. Congratulations, high five, enjoy your retirement.
Mhm.
Yeet into the fireplace. Here's the 5.5, folks.
Yeah, let's hope that is the case, but it is not the same group of people that were doing third edition. So who knows?
No, and it's also not the same people who were handling the beginning of 5e either, because that team left for creative differences right at the beginning.
Funny that, huh?
So I'm I'm not concerned. I think the designers are understand the greater aspect of things, and but they are taking a lot of external ideas in that I don't think really benefit the game in a lot of ways.
How,
But
how
there's something to be said to taking those ideas and bringing them in. Like just there's 1,000 people making 1,000 subclasses. My last stream on Friday, when I was writing my module, some kid came in and said, "Hey, here's a paladin subclass that I have," and he basically
Uh-huh.
told me the idea, and it was relatively good. It was I think it was like paladin of like the silent vow or something, or oath of the silence, and
Okay.
it was like the paladin can't speak anymore,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it had a lot of thematic things designed to that. And I'm like, I had a couple suggestions here and there, but overall it was good. So like it's not that hard to create a subclass. So just make it make it be better or have some good use outside of just be better than Battle Master for Christ's sakes.
Yep.
And and just go with that.
Yeah, because the subclasses they should be designed to be different. You
Yeah,
don't want any of them being even similar. And because the fact that like they give you get what 4, 5 abilities over the course of that subclass. You don't
depends on the
get
class, yeah.
yeah, but you don't get a lot, and that doesn't leave you a lot to build on. And that's just a design flaw in fifth edition. Like
Yeah.
Pathfinder third edition, man, you get stuff every level, every other level. It's just a constant upgrade. And fifth edition, it really does not have that. It never has. You, you get I don't have the books here in front of me, but from first to 20th level, I want to say you get about 10 abilities. So I guess one every other level,
Yeah.
which that's just not much. And there are some classes that don't even get that.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of it too is just, 4E
Nope.
had this issue where there was just too much stuff, and it caused a lot. It caused a big problem. So they kind of took a lot of that back and kind of went to the original way of how D&D worked.
I
But
don't really feel that you can have too much stuff. I just don't. There
4E had too much stuff.
well, I mean, we've talked about this before. Third edition had way more, and second edition had even way more than that. But
No, but fourth had something like at first, the first time you choose a feat, which is like level 3, no, level 1. I think every 2 levels you gain a feat,
mhm,
and there was something like 14,000 feats to choose from.
perfect.
Yeah, a little too much.
No, that's perfect. I want
Uh-uh.
I want 14,000 feet. If I
No,
don't
you
have.
don't.
Yes, I do. I don't have to pick from all of them. If I want to, as a new player or whatever, if I'm a DM and I have a new player who's coming in and they want to build their first character, I'm going to be like, here's the core book. This is what you have to pick from. And after they start getting more experienced, if they want to branch out, they can. Yeah, you're responsible for the game. You are responsible for the characters and the players and what they have access to. And a long term experienced player who has access to all those books and they want to go digging through it, go for it. You as the DM, you are still only going to have to deal with what is on that character sheet. So if they go through 14,000 and try to perfectly min max this thing and get all the stuff they want, fine, let them. Because when everything is said and done, you still only have to look up the stuff on that character sheet. You don't have to go through 14,000 of them. You, as the DM, have to go through 20.
I don't think you realize how feats worked in fourth edition, but they were stupid and asinine, and you had to choose them because other feats built off of them.
Yes, that was the
But
same as in third edition. You had to have this
but
feat to get this feat to get this feat.
but what they would do is like they were like, oh, you can use your arcane score to intimidate people. That's a feat.
Cool.
But there's 14,000. So like, oh, you can use your athletics to intimidate people. Oh, you can use your cunning to intimidate people. Oh, you can use your streetwise to find your
All
way
right.
through a lost forest. And it was too asinine. Even with a builder, even limiting people's choices, which I had to do because adding in like all the Dark Sun shit and all the Eberron shit just made things even more complicated. It still took hours to create a level 3 character
Eh,
because there's just too much to choose from.
Once again, if it's a level 3 character, especially if it's a newer player, be like, here's your core book. This is what
Even
you
the
have
core
access
book
to.
is too much because the core book had something like 500 different feats in it.
Yeah, in 500, that's a lot for a core book. Maybe they screwed up on how they laid things out in fifth. There were a good number of feats
Fourth.
in third, or yeah, sorry, in fourth. There were a good number of feats in third in the core book, but it was 100, 1 to 200, somewhere in that range, I would think.
It was complete and utter asinine. And the thing is there was 3 core books.
Oh, well, that's just stupid. You just need
There
one.
was Player Handbook 1, Player Handbook 2, Player Handbook 3.
I mean, they did the same thing later on with third, and I thought that was kind of ridiculous. But they could have just released a book on feats or rules updates.
It was just too much. Trust me, believe me, it
Yeah,
was crazy.
I will never agree with that. I want more. Give me more. More is better. More will
I
always
could
be better.
send you the builder for 4th edition. Like, all right, make me a level 1 fighter.
Cool.
What? You can't choose what daily to use after 4,000 different dailies?
Sure, I can.
Eh.
I absolutely can.
What? The ability description doesn't match what it does.
Well, why you're using search tools? Give me the damn book.
Because you had to. That was the problem with fourth, is that there's just too much. You couldn't manage it without having something to help you go through it.
That's your thought process. Maybe me being ADD, it it just seems easy enough to do that. I don't need a builder. If I want to build something, I'll come up with the idea and I will just go through the books that I need to go through.
That's not how fourth worked.
You see, you also have this weird idea that Ford somehow had more than third.
It did.
How? All right. Well, we're gonna look this up.
It may not have more books, but it had more shit, asinine shit to choose from in each of the books. Because you got to remember, every level you choose an at-will ability, and the at-will abilities were um, your just the things you could do at all times. So you had to choose like 4 or 5 of those right from the start. Then
Yeah.
you had to choose encounter powers. Then you had to choose daily powers. Then you had to choose feats. Then you had to choose magic items because you had to have magic items in order to basically
I,
stay in line with the monsters.
I'm not saying the design of that game wasn't problematic. I don't think I, that's a
I've built a
that's a
character.
design
I've
flaw.
built a level 5 character in 3.5 with a builder. It took me like 30 minutes.
Yeah,
Okay.
I absolutely guarantee you I could build a 5th level character in 4th, and I don't even play 4th. I've never really played 4th, and I could do it in under an hour.
I'm going to challenge you on that one.
So
I'll get you the builder and send it out to you. Like, all right, create me a level 5 psionic, but multi-class it with a ranger, and also have it be human
no,
crossbred with an orc.
no. See, I don't need all that shit.
But
That's what
that's how fourth edition functioned. If you didn't do that, you couldn't make a character that worked.
I will make a fighter. That fighter will hit shit.
Automatically, you fail because that's not the fighter's role in fourth edition.
Okay, I will make a class that hits shit. Paladin, ranger, whatever. Rogue.
Paladins don't hit shit. Rogues
What?
rogues hit shit.
Perfect. I'll make a damn rogue.
Okay, what kind of rogue?
I don't know. I will have to look at all that stuff. I've never played
Right,
the
and that's
game.
what I'm saying. There's like 1,700 different subclasses for you to choose from now.
Perfect. I
What's your
will.
race? That's the most important part.
I don't know what's in the core book. Probably elf.
Probably
I,
elf. Okay,
yeah, most likely just a high elf or whatever they call them in that.
Eladrin.
No, elf, not Eladrin. Not the same thing.
Well, in fourth edition, high elves are Eladrin.
Anyway, I think they're tired of us. I'm sure our listeners are sick of us going on and on and on and on and on and on and on.
How was your tea?
It was actually it's pretty good. I'm sitting here drinking an actual green tea since that's what you were talking about earlier. uh, yeah, a hot tea, although at this point it's cold, with 2 packs of stevia. Decaf, unfortunately.
Tisk tisk. All right,
Yeah.
that's it.
Yep.
Bye, Craig.
Uh, bye,
What?
guys. No, no, I'm just saying we'll hash this thing out, not on the podcast later, and then
Oh
we'll.
no, I'm gonna send it and I can do it live. We're just sit here. The entire podcast is like, all right, go ahead and choose your feat. Okay, do you want the dual wield? Well, there's 17 different dual wield feats. Which one?
We'll figure it out. All right,
Nah.
we're leaving. Bye.